Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. I'm your host, Nancy Sheed, and I am very excited, super excited, I'd say, to be in conversation today with Cate Luzio. Cate is the founder and CEO of Luminary. It is another global professional education and networking platform. And we don't even put the word like co-working in there, but I'm going to throw it in. And in terms of, there is a physical space, Cate, that you have in New York City that is affiliated with HAYVN, and we're going to talk more about that. But welcome, Cate. So excited to actually get to chat.
Me too. I love it. We've been trying to do this for a long time, so I'm so glad it's happening.
Well, and we've got more to talk about now.
Yeah, exactly.
That is exciting. So again, for those of you who don't know, Luminary is a physical space, but also a digital space, a platform. And Cate, I want to say, like, you've grown it into like a multi-million-dollar global business with 15,000 members and 100 plus enterprise members. So this is no longer, or this isn't just a little space on the third floor over on Broadway, right?
No, good or bad, we have 25,000 square feet here in the heart of Nomad in New York City. And when I launched it back in early 2019, it was about 11,000 square feet. So we've expanded, we've taken over basically the whole building. But to your comment, Nancy, about the co-working, when I built it, never wanted to be known as a traditional co-working space. It was always about building a platform at the time physically for women and allies, because we've always been gender inclusive, and doing that under the lens of, yes, community, before it was bastardized as a word. But really differentiating ourselves through the programming and all of the content that we're able to provide. And the amenity is the ability to co-work and gather and be in a physical location, along with our beauty bar and our fitness studio, et cetera, et cetera. And then even before we had launched Luminary, our physical location, we had begun to build this partner network, because I knew that I didn't want to have physical locations because we aren't a traditional co-working space.
Exactly.
And we're also not a club, but we wanted to take parts of the co-working world and the club and bring them together so that we could service a bigger audience.
I love the clarity and intention you brought to Luminary, but I'm going to take a step back to talk about like pre-Luminary Cate. So I like to say some of us have jobs and careers right now that didn't exist when we were in school or in college. What was pre-Luminary Cate thinking when she was coming out of school? Or was she coming out of school? What was that first job? Or what was the job when you said, I've had enough. I have a vision. I have to go?
You know, it's funny. I never really had that. I had enough, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I graduated in the 90s and from college, and I got a job at a nonprofit in the DC area. And then that was in the middle of the internet boom, the original internet boom, right? What we're seeing right now with AI. And so the CFO of the nonprofit actually advised me to like get on board and like go out into the private sector. And I took his advice. And so worked in tech, startup tech for a couple of years, had the opportunity to be abroad in China, came back and was going to school to get my master's degree at night. I couldn't afford to not work.
Right.
So went to Georgetown, and in the process of doing that, got introduced to a bank that ended up recruiting me. And I was like, this is nothing I ever thought I would ever do, but why not? I'll take a chance. And then I ended up 2 decades across 3 different banks, Bank of America, JP Morgan, and HSBC. I had the opportunity to live around the world. And I built a real career in international banking, so corporate banking, but really around the multinational corporations. But on the side of my desk, I was running our women's network, and I was very involved in talent development. And in the process of being so client focused, but also how do we help more women? How do we help more underrepresented people inside the firm, in the firms that I work for? In 2018, was like, I need to do something different. And it wasn't because I didn't love my job. I did. I was in the midst of making another career and move in finance. And a mentor of mine and sponsor was like, I think you are shortchanging yourself. And maybe there's something else and a bigger career out there than just finance. And you can always go back if you decide that something didn't work out. And so in the process of doing that, I ended up writing a business plan for Luminary. It was never an idea. I never thought about it until I stepped away from my big job and had actually, I think, some time to think creatively about what life was. And I remember thinking, there's no way I want to start my own business. Absolutely not.
I was going to say, you knew what startups look like. It wasn't like...
And I was like, I'm not for that. My brother's an entrepreneur. And 7 years into this, almost 8, if you count like my business plan and the build of Luminary, I still go, did I do the right thing? And I think it's okay to do that. And it's okay to be vocal about that, because I think we struggle with identity. And I think the more we can talk about it, especially as women, the more confidence we get, the more idea generation, the more collaboration opportunities. So that was my pre-life. And then when I did the business plan for Luminary, I also quickly did financial projections and was like, okay, I'm going to self-fund this because I don't want to go out there and raise money. And it would take so much longer to do. And right place at the right time. We launched a year and a month before the pandemic hit.
Right place at the right time. It just wasn't exactly the place and time you thought it was going to be according to your financial plans.
Exactly.
So I know it's further back in the rearview mirror now, and it doesn't feel quite so close. At times it does. And at HAYVN, we went through similar times, launching within 6 months, right? And then you come on your 1 year to 1.5 year anniversary, and you're like, whoa, this wasn't what it was, what it was meant to be. But I'd love to hear from your view, but I think because as you said, it sounded like you never set out to be a physical space. You might have already had and you were focused on programming, that you were, I'm not saying it was easy, but maybe able to pivot easier than those people who were focused solely on space. What did it look like for you being in New York City? Again, it was a little bit different out here where we had a little more trees and grass and space and houses to get to.
Yeah. And we really, in the first 45 days, we lost 75% of our B2C revenue. And that I understood that because everybody was in the same boat. Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the markets? Am I going to have a job? And so I understand. And if you had people that were coming to work that no longer could, and they were like, I'm going to pause this. But at the same time, because we had always had, and when we launched with a B2C and a B2B, we basically went back to the B2B partners and said, yeah, you know how before you only could be in New York to give access to your people. Well, we've gone online, at least for however long this is going to last. And that was actually an incredible accelerator for us, because if you take UBS, which is a big partner of ours, all of a sudden it didn't matter that you were in New York Metro and could physically come in for a program. Now we were online and anybody anywhere could take advantage of it. I will say, I wish I had been that smart beforehand to think about that.
That's okay.
I went back to my original business plan. Digital virtual programming wasn't even mentioned. So it was really, you're backed against the wall. What are we going to do? And if we go back to that time in March, the reality was we had already set up all this programming for Women's History Month. And I felt it was our duty to, because of what was happening, we needed to be there. And so for March and April and May, we opened up our programming for free for anybody.
Wow.
And then in May, members and even former members that were like, hey, I moved to Chicago, or I'm living in Long Island, or they're like, do you have a digital membership? And I was like, ooh, a digital membership. Okay. And this goes back to the community. Exactly. For you, sure, we'll build it. Listening to your community, right? People ask me all the time, like, what's your roadmap for building community? I'm like, listening to your audience. And if you listen to them, you can actually really put into practice a lot of the feedback that they're providing. And so the digital membership came out of that. Luminary Live, what we do around the country, came out of the community. So much of our 70% of our programming today comes from the community. So it's a long way of saying, like, and we navigated through that. But I think we didn't pivot, we adapted, and we continue to adapt, right? Like all of us. It's like, what's working, what's not, and then quickly move on to adjust and adapt to both what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the political landscape, what's happening in the co-working world. And I know we're going to talk about that and adjust. And I think that I have a great team. So it's not done just by Cate. And I have a great advisory board.
I love that piece. I want to pause for 2 seconds and just say, as we're coming back into post-COVID, my very first in real life in New York City, we're out of COVID moment was at Luminary. It was for Terry Trespicio's book launch.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I just remember thinking, okay, we're back. And it was such a great, there was just, I think there for so many of us, that was the experience of like, okay, we can get back to this. Like, thank goodness. Thank you, Luminary. And thank you, Terry, for being there. But going back to your adapting, what I want to say now, looking, as you said, 7 years later, how has community building, co-working changed in terms of like what you saw it as when you started out, right? Like, I mean, you've talked about the political landscape. You've talked about the bastardized use of the word community. There's still a craving for it. There's still a need for it. I feel like it's almost now a muscle we need versus it's a nice to have. What does it look like from your purview as you're looking a little bit backward, but more forward?
So I'll take the community. For everyone out there that's building community, I don't mean that bastardization in a negative way. I think what's happening right now, it's everybody's got to build a community. And it's used as a marketing strategy. And I do not fundamentally believe that it's a marketing strategy. A community is an audience you serve, and it's one that needs tender and care. And you've got to do it every single day. It is not you build it and they will come. And consumers are way more smarter than we give them credit for. And they can call bullshit a mile away. And so I get upset when I see all of this. Oh, I'm building in this next. It's like, I want you to build community and I want you to succeed because we can all coexist, but I want you to do it for the right reasons. And I think that there is a high level of expectation when you join a community. What are you getting back from it? And so are you providing value? That's number one, and what to your community. And so that's why I say you listen every single day to what your members, we call them members, want. I also think the events industry now in 2026 is projected to be over $1 trillion because we've done so much virtually. I think everybody's like, okay, I got to get back in person. I will tell you at Luminary, I still think there is a balance of virtual and in person. Because we service so many companies and we have members around the world, we've got to really still intentionally build the virtual. Because by the way, even if you're in New York City, you may have a very busy schedule. You may be at your desk all day. You still want that flexibility and convenience to pop into an event for an hour if you can do it, or listen in to a conversation, which is why a lot of our programming and events are live streamed. The second part of it is that events like in real life, I think is so important. We all want connection. So community, right? We've all talked about it for the last 7 years, but when it comes down to it, I want real connection in that community. And so it's got to be intentional and purposeful. And then I think co-working, right? And maybe I have a little bit of a different perspective because I'm sitting in New York City and people want to leave their apartments because most of people's apartments aren't huge. They may be competing for somebody else that's working at home, whether it's a roommate or a significant other. So I think New York, it's a little bit more insulated than the suburban areas.
Right.
It's not as spread out as like in LA, and people commute and people take public transportation. But I will say behaviors have changed dramatically. Pre-pandemic, you might see someone coming in 5 days a week, like getting on their laptop, working, meeting. Now it's just so easy to say, you know what? If I get out of my house 1 day or 2 days, but that we have to constantly monitor like that behavior modification. And then you also had a lot of companies that in the earlier part of the pandemic that were like 2 to 3 days hybrid. So you have corporate level employees coming. A lot of companies are like back to the 4 to 5 day. And so again, behaviors, you're constantly having to look at behaviors and how people are utilizing these spaces. Is it co-working? Is it a third space? Is it a place to gather? And I think for us at Luminary, it's kind of all of the above.
Yeah. You talked about the changing uses and behaviors. I'm also curious because you do a great job of saying you're for every person at any stage in their life or career, right? Whether you're just starting out, whether you're in that corporate slog, whether you're in startup mode, whether you're in significant change mode. Cate, have you seen those behaviors change in terms of your members showing up, right? Like, I feel like there was also some major shifts going on in how we viewed ourselves or how members or women were viewing themselves. Were they quietly quitting? And were you there for support for them? Were some of them now being forced to go back into the world? And then I think startup 10 years ago has a different feel than startup now. So have you seen the behavior change in your members?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think if you could even go back 3 or 4 years, if I look at just the founder entrepreneur community in Luminary, and if I go back and say, if I did a poll in an audience and said, how many of you are raising, right, external funds to build your business? You would have had 70% of the people going, I'm raising my hand. If I ask it now, I would say 30%.
Fascinating.
Yes, because number one, the fundraise environment has changed drastically. Cost of capital has risen. You're also seeing where's the money going? It's going to AI. It's going to healthcare. It's going to certain and specific industries. And so I think there's also been this massive reshifting of what are they looking for, which I agree as a former banker should be focused on profitability, not just revenue growth, right? And so that's changed dramatically, right? So you can no longer just get away with, I'm building a business and I've got these great revenue goals. When are you breaking even? When are you becoming profitable? When am I going to get my money back as an investor or a lender? And so that has forced a lot of founders, I think, to say, oh, do I really want to raise? And by the way, maybe I'm just building a lifestyle cash flow business versus I want to build the next unicorn. That word also thrown around so much.
Right.
And I think for women in particular, whether you're a founder, whether you're still in corporate, I think there's been this huge shift around purpose. Like, what am I doing all of this for? Flexibility is a word that we think about just for, is my job hours flexible? I think flexibility is, can I be there for pickup? Can I do different things? Do I have 5 things that I'm building versus just one?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And so I think that there's an identity shift that's happening, and it's been going on since probably 2020 when we saw that millions of women leaving the workplace. I know we've replaced that, but you're starting to see that identity shift happen again. And then I said this morning at an event, we work with a lot of people in corporate that are afraid to say they're happy in their jobs.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And it's like, it's okay to be content in your role. We don't always have to be striving for the next thing. I was with someone for lunch today. She's like, I'm in a great role. I don't want to be my boss. I don't want that extra responsibility. I don't want that tether to the senior man. Like, I'm really happy. And so I think we also have to talk about that more, that there are plenty of people that are very content in their roles. And maybe it doesn't have to be for the rest of their life. Maybe they're also depending on their life stage. I'm really trying to get people to share, like, hey, yeah, I love my job.
Stories. Yeah. And the thing you and I talked about at one of your networking events, or after it, is what I was going to say, the other side of it is when somebody stepped away from corporate and they've come, they haven't quite embraced it. And again, we don't know their circumstances, but some of them did it, but they feel as though they've stepped to the other side.
Totally.
And what we've talked about is almost like, come on over here. It's okay. We've actually been doing some innovative, great things over here outside of corporate for quite some time. It's a great place, right?
It's a great place. And the word we use at Luminary is we're redefining success. Like, what does success look like? And it doesn't mean success in 10 years. I mean, it could be.
No.
What does success look like for you today? And for me, even as me, like, my definition changes every other day, depending on what I'm working on, and depending on where I'm at in my personal life, my professional life. So I think it's okay. And the more we can, and we know this is important, and that's why a community is so important, because it's supposed to listen. That ability to create safe spaces virtually and physically where people can feel okay to share, and also seek support and feedback and help from others. By the way, also give it in return. That's a community to me. And I think that goes back to, why did I build this in the first place? That's what I wanted to exist. And I think 7 years in, and it's also how we pick and choose our partners and our partner network. We want someone that I remember touring Felicia at Luminary in 2019. Like I can picture it in my mind and what she was
Right.
building with him. And I was like, you're a great example of who we want in our partner network.
Right.
And so it's mission aligned, we're for all, but yet anybody that walks in our physical or virtual doors knows what we're about and they embrace that.
Such a great segue into this what you and I believe is a huge asset to all of the sort of partner communities that work with you at Luminary in terms of the reciprocity, in terms of
My
the
favorite
ability
word.
to share. So I'm going to let you, Cate, explain it better than I can, but I'm just going to say I'm the big fan that I feel like I tell everybody, like, if you're a member, you can go use the Luminary space. If you're a member here, you can go use this space. They're like, where? Is there a list? Is there a map? So Cate, if you'll explain it better than I am, besides just getting people excited and distracted for coming to your space.
Yeah. So when I was writing the business plan and my market research, I'll just try to get long story short. I started to see when I did my competitive analysis, I also looked outside of New York because I wanted to see what was happening in other cities. And I started to see in particular women building co-working spaces and other spaces. And I was like, this is cool, but I'm never going to go build a Luminary in Minneapolis or Houston or Mill Valley, San Francisco. Like I'm just not going to. So let me reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in reimagining like the old boys network. And so 99% of them were like, yes, I'm in. How do we do this? And I said, well, we'll take the lead and build a network. And now we have over 50 partner spaces around the country and about a half a dozen abroad. And what does that even mean? It means that if you're a member of Luminary and up to 2 days a month, you can actually pop into any of those spaces that are on that list at any time and show up and say, hey, HAYVN in Darien or Greenwich, or hey, Blackbird in LA, or hey, Sesh in Houston. I'm a Luminary member. Great, come on in. The same happens reciprocally where a HAYVN member can pop into the Coco in Summit or Alter in Chicago and vice versa. And it really has become not only an incredible network, but it's an incredible benefit for the members of each of those physical spaces. 99% of them don't have digital programming. It's a true co-working space.
Right.
So like now I've got an additional benefit that adds value to being a member of that particular space. And for us, we see it as incredible geographic reach without having the real estate in every one of these cities.
100%. And as you said, people now travel more. People might be popping into places. People might have flexible schedules. I went and checked out Story in Louisville. And I was
Louisville.
Like,
Exactly.
I was like, hey, you're in the network. Yeah. So I want to just give it the shout out it deserves in making sure we covered that here, because I do feel like it's an underutilized asset or benefit of being members in any of these spaces. So I think what we'll do is also put a link right here in the show notes for that specific map. And then, Cate, if people, we could talk all day and we'll come back and revisit this conversation. But if people want to reach out to you, touch base with you, you're so gracious with your time. What's the best way to reach you and learn more about Luminary?
So for Luminary, where we are luminary.com. I'm always a big believer in like a call to action. So we are luminary.com. Same on our Instagram. Luminary, which is on LinkedIn, we come up as I believe as a social network. And then for me, I'm on Instagram, Cate Luzio, CateLuzio. If you want to see pictures of my outfits of the day and my cats and my nieces and nephews.
So good. They're so, I don't know about the cats. I'm definitely in for the outfits of the day.
Okay.
So good.
But if you want to connect with me, the best place is LinkedIn. And then I host once a month in office hours, open to all. If you're a Luminary member, you get access to me and can set up time anytime you want. But if you're not and you still want to connect, LinkedIn is by far my favorite platform. It's where I'm most active.
Nice. I love it. Well, Cate, thank you so much for your time. I know I'm sensitive to when this is going to air. We've got events together tomorrow night and other fall things coming up. But I said this to everybody, like, before you even consider membership, get on the email list, get a sense of the programming. Like, it's just such a great way to get started. And then once you get into an event, I'd like to say, especially in real life, you'll have that Kismet meeting and you're like, this is a no-brainer. This is what I need. For those people who are on the fence about committing to any sort of membership, I'm always like, just take the baby step, try it out, see.
Or if you're in the New York metro area or coming in from Philly or wherever, Westchester, Connecticut, get a day pass.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to spend less there than you do at a Starbucks.
Exactly.
I'm just going to say.
And you get free coffee and wine.
Yeah, exactly. Cate, thank you so much for your time. You're so gracious with your time. Excited to keep these conversations going and talk more about the network and the benefits of the network as we move forward. But thank you for being here.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Love it. And that's another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. If you like what you hear, we'd love a like, a share, a thumbs up, a subscribe on whatever platform you are listening on.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.